two, one, whenever you're ready.
Hello, everyone. This is real estate coach Craig Proctor, and welcome to the Craig Proctor Real Estate Show. Today, from Arizona, my special guest, longtime Craig Proctor member and Craig Proctor coach, Brett. How are you doing this morning?
Morning, sir. I am fine. It is bright and early here, 8 a.m. on the Pacific Coast, and so it's a real privilege to be here with everybody and you.
I was just saying to Brett, we've had this lined up, and there was always something would happen. I would get sick or whatever. So I know we've taken a couple of shots at getting together, but I'm so happy we've got the opportunity. You've had tremendous success with the Craig Proctor system. I guess it makes sense. Let's go back to the very beginning. How we met, why you joined up with the Craig Proctor system, what your real estate career was doing at that point. And now you're one of my most successful members. You've been around for a long time, and you're now coaching and mentoring other Craig Proctor members. So let's go back to day one. How did you find me?
Well, that was I was actually thinking about that this morning before the call, and that was almost 8 years ago to the day, Craig. So you came here to Scottsdale, did a half day, and that was when I first met you. And ironically, what we're actually going to be talking about as far as follow-up and the universal callback script, you gave that to me when I registered for that half day. And it was, I didn't realize it at the time, but I've called it the keys to the kingdom ever since then. But you came and you talked for a half day. And then originally I said, I'm going to come and see you in Orange County in March or April of the following year. That would have been 2017, because we were originally going to be camping with friends. But I felt so compelled because literally 2 weeks later, you were doing that very same 3-day in California. I felt so compelled that I canceled the camping trip with my friends, reorganized everything, and came and saw you for 3 days. And that was the start of how it all went. But my business, I was a pretty new agent at the time, been in almost 2 years at that point, and had just come away from kind of a team relationship. And I knew how to do deals, but I didn't know how to find prospects. And I didn't know how to take somebody from, yes, they may be doing something in the next 3 to 6 months, to get them to that point of doing a deal, which is when you started talking about that, I realized this is where it's at. And so I knew I had to get on that, and the rest is history 8 years later. So thank you for everything.
Let's just ask everyone watching to check in. Please let us know the city and state, if you're in Canada, the city and province that you sell real estate in. And go ahead and feel free to type in your questions or your comments. And Brett and I will either answer them while we're live, but more likely when we're done, because we want to focus on what we're doing. But we will get back to everybody. One of the things that I'm going to offer up here today for free is this universal callback script that Brett's talking about. It's the one script that you can use, as the name would suggest, universally. Whether you meet a buyer at an open house, whether it's an ad call or a sign call, it doesn't matter. You can use this one script that will help you very quickly determine the two most important things that you want to know about any prospect. The two most important things, by the way, I didn't know what those two most important things were. When I first got into real estate, I thought this was about building rapport, and you had to spend a half an hour on the phone. And I thought if the prospect was nice on the phone, that they must be motivated. And if they were kind of grumpy, that means they weren't. And so, of course, that was completely wrong. But the two most important things I discovered, and I think you guys will all agree, that we want to know about any buyer or seller prospect is, are they motivated?
Mm-hmm.
And what is their timing?
Yep, 100%.
And Brett, here's one thing that we know, that when you and I started, we wasted a lot of time with people that weren't motivated, or their timing was years and years off.
Right.
And I would get so mad at myself when I would leave these waste of time appointments. I remember, being at a seller's house, and it was a nice elderly couple. They come out with the whatever, the tea and the cookies. But I realized about 5 minutes into this, these guys aren't like motivated to sell their home. They're just lonely, right? And I'm thinking, who booked this appointment for me? And I remember it was me. So we have to be very precious as how we use our time. Now, this conference that you met me at in Anaheim. What year was that?
2016,
2016.
8 years ago.
Pretty soon that's going to be 10 years ago. That's unbelievable. But you look exactly the same. So I'm the only one getting older here. Now we're doing another conference in Anaheim. We just released, I'm not even sure if you know about it. We just released the dates 2 days ago. So for those of you watching, it's November 11th and 12th at the Hyatt Regency in Anaheim, California, which is one of our go-to places in California. If you've never been to one of our conferences before, my goal is is the same goal I had when I met Brett, which is to show you folks, introduce you to a brand new world of opportunities. And I think at that point, you were all in on the system, right? Like it made sense to you. And the issue that you articulated, you did such a great job there, Brett, because you said, hey, basically said, you know what? I was a good agent. I knew I was a good agent. I knew what to do when I was in front of a buyer that wants to buy or a seller that wants to sell. The issue was you weren't getting enough of those opportunities.
Yep.
And that's really what I do, right? I teach you. I mean, I'm not saying that we can't get better when we're in face to face with buyers and sellers, but for most of you, that's not your issue. You're pretty good. How many of you would agree that's not your problem? If you get in front of a buyer that wants to buy or a seller that wants to sell, you're going to do the job. You know what to do.
Mm-hmm.
The issue most agents have is getting there. So getting to that appointment requires, number one, how do I find them? So what did I do when I began? And probably what you did, Brett, I'm not sure, but cold calling, door knocking, chasing, that's one approach that doesn't work very well. We know that. So the new thing is we buy leads. And we buy leads, and then we try to follow up with them. And the reason you're following up with them is because you want to well, first of all, you want to qualify them, find out, are they motivated? And what is their timing? Number one. Number two, you want to meet with them so you can show them like, my name's Brett. Here's what I do. Here's the services I provide. This was what makes me different and better. And this is why you should hire me. So how do we get to that point? We need to, first of all, get them on the phone or at least have a proper follow-up sequence with emails and text messages that basically tell them who you are, what you do, what makes you different and better. And then eventually get on the phone. So let's go back in time to pre-Craig. We're going to go back in our time machine to maybe 2015 or early 2016 before you met me. How were you following up with buyers and sellers? What was kind of your mindset approach at that point?
Well, I would say, first of all, it was definitely winging it. And it was also something I didn't do a lot of because I was afraid of the phone. And so, I was afraid because I didn't know really what to say or what to do. I didn't have a system. And so it would be kind of what will happen? Will they even answer? If they answer, how will it go? Will they yell at me, curse at me, slam the phone down? And so that was kind of the biggest factor. So a lot of fear, but mostly coming from the unknown, because it was winging it and there was no system in place. And so very inconsistent, and really didn't look forward to it. So I didn't do a lot of it, honestly.
Okay. How many of you totally agree with what Brett just said? Is we don't like doing things that are painful. And we especially don't like doing things that are getting us no results. So that was me. I would get on the phone. Now the wing it part is kind of exciting because you never know what you're going to say. So that's kind of exciting because I'm like literally, Brett, I'm reinventing this every single phone call. It's like, I don't know how this one's going to go. And I remember what you just said about being almost afraid if they pick up the phone. I was almost relieved when I got voicemail. It's like, oh my God, right? I'm sweating. I'm really got myself worked up to make this phone call. And I was actually relieved when I got voicemail because now I don't have to talk to them. And the issue, the reason most real estate agents don't like making phone calls is they don't know what to say and what they're saying isn't working.
Yep.
So, I mean, that's just human nature. If I go over and stick my finger in the light socket and I get a shock, I'm like, that hurts. So I'm not going to do that anymore, right?
Yep.
So what happens over time in real estate without the proper coaching and training and winging it or basically taking bad advice from people that aren't very good at this is we become discouraged. I mean, who wants to sit there for hours on the phone and do something we don't like and feel uncomfortable or nervous or whatever and get rejected or yelled at? And then at the end of the day, you got nothing to show for it.
100%.
So that's where I was. So how did I come up with this script? Okay. So here's what happens. After years of doing just what I described, I really started to pay attention to the words that were coming out of my mouth. And I noticed that some of the words, some of the things that came out of my mouth actually seemed to work, that were well received. And then, of course, most of the things that were coming out of my mouth were utter garbage and either got hung up on or it wasn't working.
Right.
So over several years, I developed this script. Like, this is how I introduce myself. And I realized that if I could get the buyers and sellers to call me first, and my phone call to them was positioned as a follow-up call rather than me initiating this, if I was able to follow up with them, I wasn't as afraid. Okay, like I didn't feel like, okay, well, they're probably less likely to get mad at me or yell at me if I'm calling and I'm saying, hey, Brett, it's Craig Proctor with Remax. And the reason I'm calling is I received your request for fill in the blank.
Yep.
Just wanted to let you know I've sent that out to you. And then I would get into in the by the way.
Yep.
The by the way, of course, is why I'm really calling,
One
which
more
is,
thing.
yeah, are you thinking about making a move? And if you were to move, would you be staying local or would you be moving out of the area? Do you own a home or are you currently renting? Are you speaking to other agents?
Mm-hmm.
If they own a home, would you prefer to buy first before you list your home? Or
Right.
are you the type of person that would rather sell your home first before you go look for a property? So this was all developed through trial and error. And as you say, winging it and doing a very bad job of it until I started to get better. What's that old saying? It's like when we first get into real estate, we have we're unconscious incompetence, right? I was
Don't know, don't
incompetent.
know.
Yeah, I didn't even know. I was too stupid to even know I was incompetent, right? And then, after making hundreds of phone calls and getting rejected and hung up on or yelled at, then you realize, I'm actually aware. I'm conscious of the fact that I am actually really bad at this. I'm incompetent at this. And then really trying hard and paying attention, I became pretty good at it.
Right.
I was a conscious competent, but I really had to try because
Yep.
if I wasn't really focusing, I would definitely screw it up.
Yeah.
And then it became to the highest level where I was an unconscious competent. I didn't even have to think about it.
Yep.
Okay, so now my team gets really big, and I've got too many leads for me to call. So I have to take this script that's just in my head. I realize, well, as long as it's just in my head, it really doesn't exist. It's just in my head. So I take this script and I get it down on a piece of paper, and we tweak this thing and we improve it until it couldn't be improved anymore. And the idea was we want to create a script that actually works. It's 2 or 3 minutes long. I'd hear these trainers, well, Brett, we have 87 different scripts, right? It's like, no one's going to remember 87 scripts.
Right.
So we created a script and it actually works. And I know a lot of you don't like scripts. It's like, well, Craig, I know what I'm going to say, but how do I get the buyer and seller to say what they're supposed to say? This is a very natural script. So we're going to share with you this. We're going to give it to you all today. So I'm going to ask Faith to show it to you. And Brett and I will give you our comments on it. And you're going to be able to get this in the comments below. We're going to have a link, and you just click on the link and follow the directions, and you can get this script. Now, this is normally reserved only for my paying coaching members. Now, here's the thing. You need training on this. So I don't want anyone to think, okay, I've got the piece of paper. I can go out and make $1 million a year. You need to be trained. And we do this every single Thursday. We train all the Craig Proctor coaching members and their team members how to use this. But you can see there's a left-hand side of the script that says buyer follow-up, and there's a right-hand side that says seller follow-up. So if I run a campaign and it's targeting sellers, maybe I'm offering, hey, here's a free report on things that you could do to prepare your home for sale. Obviously, that's a seller lead, and we're going to go down the right-hand side of the script. So look at how we're positioning this. You're always going to first ask for the person that requested the information. If it's Mr. Smith, hi, may I speak to Mr. Smith? Hi, Mr. Smith. And then you're going to identify yourself. Who are you? The very important thing, Brett, in the introduction, I found is when people answer the phone, you better tell them who you are and why you're calling.
Yep.
So we're getting that out of the way right away. And I'd be saying, hey, Brett, this is Craig Proctor with Remax. The reason I'm calling is I received your request for fill in the blank, and I wanted to let you know I'm sending that out to you. Now, it's going to be difficult for Brett to get upset with me. How many of you would agree? I mean, it's not like Brett's going to say, damn you for calling me and sending me the thing I wanted, right? Look, I'm not saying that never happens. You'd be surprised. You will get some people that are rude. But if we generate enough leads, the idea is we want to help you guys get an overflow of an abundance of buyers and sellers so we don't have to work with the rude people. Brett, I'm sure you're in this position now where if somebody is rude or nasty or impossible to work with, you no longer have to work with them, right?
Fortunately, yeah, the abundance, privilege of abundance for sure.
I didn't have that early in my career. They could really abuse me. I would take a good beating and I'd hang in because they were the only buyer I had. So
right.
I had no choice. If we can flip that back up a sec, again, Faith, I want to show everybody sort of how we're going to walk through people after the intro. So the intro is, someone answers the phone. How many of you would agree when you answer the phone, you're thinking like, who the hell is this and why are they bothering me? So we're taking care of that right away. Hey, Brett, it's Craig Proctor with Remax. The reason I'm calling is I received a request for blah, blah, blah. And I wanted to let you know I've sent that out to you. I've emailed it to you. I've mailed it to you, whatever it is. Now, the reason we're really calling, see where it says establish motivation and timing? This is what we want. We do not want this phone call to be 15 minutes long. I've done that before. I used to think, well, Brett, the reason I'm calling you is I would hang up the phone after half an hour and I would know the name of the prospect's spouse, how many kids they had, what they did for a living. But there are two things I didn't know was, are they moving and when?
Yep.
Really stupid, right? But I'm admitting, yes, I knew nothing. So my idea was if I want to make a lot of money in real estate, then I need to talk to a lot of people in an hour. And I was speaking, I was spending 20 minutes on the phone with each prospect, which in a perfect world, I could only speak to 3 prospects in an hour. With this script, I promise you guys, 3 minutes, you're on and off the phone, even in an instance when you book an appointment. So
that's 20 an hour.
It's 20 an hour, right? Now you're going to have a whole bunch of dials where you get voicemail and stuff. So it's not actually 20, but you guys, this is the most efficient way. This is what we're looking for. Is what is the minimum amount of words or time that I can invest to find out whether the prospect's motivated and when? And if they're not motivated or they're going to move 2 years, I mean, everyone's going to move eventually, right? Every seller's going to, they're going to move in 20 years. I don't have time to follow up with them, right? So I need to find out, first of all, I need prospects to call me. Then I need to follow up. I've created reciprocity. Hey, the reason I'm calling you is because you called me first. And by the way, are you thinking of making a move in the next 3 to 6 months? That's question 1. If you were to move, would you be staying local or moving out of the area? Now, you might wonder, well, why do you care? Well, this just kind of opens the conversation, I found. And remember, it's hypothetical. If you were to move. So why did I change it? Because it used to say, would you stay local or move out of the area? And then a lot of people are like, well, I don't know if I'm going to move. So it was a bit, I wanted to make it more non-committal. Brett, just saying, if you were to move, would you stay local? Not saying you are, but if you were to move, would you stay local or move out of the area? That gets the conversation going. And by the way, do you have a realtor to help you when the time is right? What if they say, well, my dad's a realtor? Well, in my experience, no matter how good I am on the phone, I'm not going to be doing business with me if they've got a close relative as a realtor. So that tells my brain, get the heck off the phone and call the next person, right?
Right.
Another thing that you've heard me say, Brett, is what I was trained to do by my broker in the beginning was I was convinced, and maybe you too, but I was convinced in the beginning that if I had this silver tongue, that I could create motivation where motivation doesn't exist. Right? So here I am spending all this time trying to talk someone into buying. Now, Think of how ridiculous that is. If someone, a real estate salesperson called you or knocked on your door and you had no interest of selling, like no one's going to talk you into selling.
Right.
That's not the purpose of the script. The purpose of the script is to identify if they have motivation,
Correct.
not to try to create motivation.
Right.
So if you want to write this down, folks, you you can't create motivation where motivation doesn't exist. Then we get to the next question. Would you prefer to buy first or sell first? Now, this just told me what offer I should pitch. You see at the bottom, we've got the sell first offer and the buy first offer. Before, I wasn't asking that question. So just because they owned a home didn't necessarily mean they want to sell their home before they buy. A lot of sellers are like, no, man, I'm not going to sell my home until I find another house. Are you crazy? I would be homeless. So if they say I'd rather buy first, well, then I go to the bottom left-hand corner and I make the buy first offer.
Right.
So let's talk about those offers, Brett. Maybe give everyone an example of sort of a weak, vanilla, generic offer that most agents would make to a buyer or seller, and then show them how we do it.
Yeah. So one would be, well, is there anything that you'd actually like to see? Is there anything that you've seen on Zillow? What can I give you more information about? Right. And so just kind of milk toast, non-effective type approaches would be what a lot of folks are trained to do. Right.
Yeah, and really what the buyer hears at that point is, oh, so Brett, what you're willing to do is to get me information on the homes that I can find on the internet by myself.
Right. Why do I need you?
Yeah, why do I need you, right? Now, how many of you watching this would agree that as you're making your offer, you're kind of feeling like, well, this is not the strongest offer, and you know that. How do we know if we don't have a great offer? Because the buyers say thanks, but no thanks. Right? So this is what we're trained to do, myself included. We were trained to say, I'm going to email you the daily updates of all the homes on the MLS, which they mean to the buyer means on the internet. So why do I need Craig if he's just going to send me the homes that are on the internet? And then the other big thing is, I provide great service and I'm a great negotiator. But a lot of buyers today are thinking, well, gee, if all the homes are on Zillow, if they're on the internet, it also tells me who the listing agent is. Craig's big argument for working with him as a buyer agent, he says he's this great negotiator. The buyer's thinking, well, maybe I'd be better off to go around Craig and go directly to the listing agent, and I'll save more money that way.
Especially now.
Especially now. So we have to know how to handle this. Like we got to have a good offer. So let me give everyone an example of what a better offer would be. Okay, and this is what Brett does. This is what all of our Superstar members do. We don't, our offer cannot, would you guys agree, it can't sound like what every other agent's saying. Okay, we can't say, I'm going to email you the daily updates of MLS. I'm a great negotiator, and I've lived in this town for 17 years. And by the way, what we believe is when we say things, it makes us different. So when we say, I'm experienced and I work hard and I really care about you, I know you think when you say it, it sounds unique, but understand none of your competitors are saying, I'm not very good, or I'm kind of lazy, or I don't care about you, right? So every agent is literally saying the same thing, expecting that when they say it, though, it sounds different. So here's how we're going to do this. What if you said to the buyer, not only will I give you priority access to all the homes that are available to the open public from all the different real estate companies, but I can also get you access to homes that are not publicly available. Some of the best deals are not available to the open public, like distress sales, bank foreclosures, unlisted off-market properties, new construction homes, etc. It's a free service, and you're never obligated to buy a home. Would that interest you? Now, if you said that just how I said it, would more buyers say, yeah, I want that?
Mm-hmm.
Now, here's the thing. What I just said, you might not know how to offer it right now. So, trust me, we're not making things up here. Like we're not saying, oh, go lie to the buyers and tell them you can get a whole bunch of things that you actually can't get. What you should be interested in is, well, how the hell do I get that information? Because I agree, Craig, if I was to say that to the buyers, they would definitely want to work with me. right? Unlisted, off market, distress sales, bank foreclosures, vacant homes, builder closeouts, et cetera, et cetera. It's a free service. You're never obligated to buy a home. If you said that, how many of you agree? Let me know in the comments if the buyers might say, yeah, I want that. Okay. So we have to have a really, really good offer. Now, some of these buyers, if you did find them a home, guess what they would next do? They would list their existing home with you. And that's an issue many of you have right now. How many of you have sellers in your database that absolutely 100% would list their home if you could find them another house, but you can't find them another house. So yeah. So, and when you use language to the buyer with the buyers and you say, if I said, hey, Brett, so tell me how you've been searching for a home, right? And Brett says, well, like I look on Zillow and Redfin, I look at all these sites. And if you said to the buyer, do you feel like it's difficult to find something you like? Do you feel kind of like all the homes you're looking at online seem to be picked over and overpriced? See what Brett's doing with the head nod? That's exactly because the buyers are like, yeah, I agree with you. It seems like all the good ones are immediately gone, that I'm looking at a bunch of leftover houses. And you're right. I'm looking at these homes that are on the internet and all the other buyers have the same access. If you can get me insider access to great deals that the other buyers don't even know about, yeah, I really, really want that.
Yep.
So when you get them as a buyer, now when you find them a house, they're going to list their home with you. And before you list their house, you probably have a buyer that will buy it anyway. Now, we're not talking, by the way, about pocket listings or doing anything shady or whatever. This is what the training is about. So that's really the first thing that I shared with Brett. And Brett became very, very good at making really, really unique killer offers to buyers and sellers to the point that the issue that Brett said when he started was, I knew I was a good agent. I know how to close the door on a sale. I just didn't have enough opportunities. I didn't have enough buyers, qualified buyers and sellers coming at me. So we solved that problem. And Brett's like off to the races. Like, okay, now that I got them coming to me, I'm selling houses left and right. And Brett, you became so good at this. You had it down to the point where I'm like, Brett, could you be a coach? I show you how to do it. And now could you help show other Craig Proctor coaching members how to do what you're an expert at? And you've done a wonderful job of that.
Well, it's been a great privilege too, but a couple of thoughts about this, just for everybody to know, just my experience with this over time. So the first off, you mentioned it earlier, this changes your conversation from a solicitation to a customer service call, okay? Which is important for the prospect, but it's more important in many cases for the agent, right? If you feel like you're like me and you don't want to be pushy or unwelcome or whatever, they responded to your offer first. And so now it's a customer service call. It's not a solicitation, right? We're trying to go deeper with what you've asked for, which is real estate information. That's one thing. The other thing is, and you mentioned it at the start, this was created in reality. It's not created in a lab with the hope that it would work, when practiced. Okay. Matter of fact, so much so, just like the other things, whether your listing presentation, your buyer presentation, or other things, I actually thought that my prospects were mystery shopping me, right? Like there was some super secret Craig Proctor secret agent that found my ads and asked for more information. And then when I called them, they were actually testing me to see how I did with the universal callback strip. And the reason why I say that is when I asked these questions, they said the things that you said they would say. Okay. And they weren't actually mystery shoppers. They were real people, but that was because this was refined in real life. And you went over the history very quickly, but I would just tell you, and everybody who's with us right now, that this has been made and refined over thousands and tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands of phone calls and prospects all across North America. Okay. So people are people regardless of the market that they're in. And so when you ask somebody, are you thinking of making a move in the next 3 to 6 months? Okay. People in Toronto and Newmarket answer the same way as they do in Scottsdale and Phoenix, in LA and Orlando, Florida, and Nashville, Tennessee, and every place else that you could mention. they're people, and we're talking about their house, their shelter, and so it works because it's made in reality. And so that's why I say this is the cornerstone. Like if you want a successful real estate business, knowing how to talk to prospects and in 2 to 3 minutes identify timing and motivation and making compelling offers that wants them to work with you more, at least take the next step. That's the foundation. That's the key. And it works. We call it callback, right? Because it does work on the phone, but it works in the grocery store line. It works at an open house. It works at your kids' sporting events, right? And so everybody asks you, how's the market? And follow up into that if the universal callback script really makes the conversation flow, and you're not selling them, you're facilitating their interest in a potential purchase or sale. So that's why I love it so much and why I think it's just so powerful.
And if this sounds too good to be true, what we're offering you is go download it and try it out yourself. And you will find the same experience as what Brett just articulated there and did a great job of it. So in the comments below, we have a link and you can get the script and start calling your prospects back. Just even if you're reading, I'd rather you read the script because we all do that in the beginning, right? Just read the script, but be careful. Don't just focus on what you're saying. Remember, the reason we're asking the questions is to listen very carefully as to how they answer the questions.
Yep.
We're not like, okay, I got Craig said, I got to read these words on the script and get through the script. That's not why we're doing this. All these questions are for a very specific purpose, right? To help you deem the motivation and timing of the prospects. You want to carefully listen to how they're answering the questions, and that's going to help you determine whether this is a now buyer, a future buyer that's 1 or 2 months away, or maybe not a buyer, not a seller that's even motivated and worth your time, right? That's the purpose of the script. So in 2 or 3 minutes, we're going to determine the motivation and timing of the prospect. Guess what? Some of them aren't motivated, but it's good to know with only 2 or 3 minutes invested, not days or weeks or months.
Yep.
Now, there's something else you just said that was so good about the positioning part of this. And what I really love about this is that we are positioned as a welcome guest when they call us instead of an annoying pest.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I felt when I first got into real estate. Cold call, chase, rejection, like not fun, right? My personality is I don't want to get up every day and sweat, have my hands sweating while I'm dialing the phone, and not know what I'm doing or being cursed at. Like that's not fun. That's not what I signed up for. But I'm the same guy. You're the same guy. We're in totally different marketplaces. And what we discovered is there is a method to get buyers and sellers to come to you. So you're returning an inquiry
Yep.
that they started, and you can position yourself as the most welcome guest instead of the most annoying pest.
Yep.
So great job here today, guys. I hope you guys loved it. If you guys are liking this, please go ahead and share this with other realtors that you work with. Maybe you want to share it with your broker owner because I know your broker wants to help all the agents in the office. And if you want to book a breakthrough call with my team, you can go to proctorcall.com, just my name, Proctor Call, no space, proctorcall.com. I'll also have Faith drop that link in. And Brett, if people want to reach out to you, verify that you're a real guy, your story is real, how would they best reach you or follow you?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can Google me. There's just one me, Brett Sarin. My direct phone number is 480-401-2330. Happy to talk about my experience. And I know we don't want to take a lot of people's time, Craig, but I do think, because you mentioned it earlier on, this upcoming California conference. And I just wanted to share the very first time I came, we actually drove out because it's only 6 hours here from Scottsdale to get to Southern California. And we hadn't been out, like my wife and I came out together. We hadn't been out for a long time just due to whatever, young family. And I'll always remember we came over the ridge down into Indio and started driving through Southern California, came and sat with, hundreds of other people. And like, I will always remember that conference and that event because it was a pivot point. We needed that experience and we needed that change in my business. And so, I could go into great detail about it, but the point is we will always remember it. And because it was that watershed moment that changed everything for us. So if you're a struggling agent, Craig's not paying me for this. This is just my own 2 cents. And if the changes are impacting you, we've been prepared for years because of what Craig taught us. Do what it takes to get to Southern California, to Anaheim for this event, because I promise you it will be well worth it. So I just wanted to make sure to share that with everybody because it changed my life 8 years ago. So if it can change somebody's life, this year, they should do it.
And this is why I still do this and why I love it. I made a lot of money selling real estate. I sold over 10,000 homes. I'm one of the few coaches out there today that actually did that actually made millions of
Sold real
dollars.
estate.
Yeah, that sold real estate. Apparently today, to be a coach, you need to go rent a Lamborghini and know how to use social media. But if you care about the credentials of your coach, if you're doing the best you can right now, but you're still not reaching your goals, you should really strongly consider hiring somebody that's been there before that can help you do that, right? Whether it's me or somebody else. But I will give this recommendation. Do some background check on whatever coach you decide to hire and make sure that they actually did the things that they're teaching you to do. For example, if I wanted to be a really great golfer, I would want to make sure that my coach was, or at one time at least, was a really great golfer. Today in our industry, we see coaches coming out of the woodwork. And I don't even like to call myself a coach because this is the Craig Proctor system. And it's a system. It's intellectual property. It's systems that all hook together to help you grow a very successful real estate business. So I try as hard as possible to differentiate myself from the legions of coaches and fakers and pretenders out there. Many of you know my story. Within 3 years of getting my real estate license, I was named the #1 Remax agent in the entire world. Now think about that. It's a kind of a miracle in the making because I started off just like all of us, no confidence. I'd never sold anything in my life before. The only reason I got into real estate is because my father was a real estate agent. And even my own dad said, don't do it. Even
Well,
my own
good, Craig.
father, yeah, don't do it. And for good reason. It's not that my dad didn't want me to succeed. He really wanted me to succeed because at that time, I was still living at home with my parents. But I'd already dropped out of college. I dropped out of university. So my dad's like, well, Craig, you don't exactly stick with anything. And real estate is full of rejection and you've never sold anything in your life and you don't know anything about marketing. So my dad had really like good reasons for me not to do it. But, like a lot of young guys or young ladies, I did the opposite of what mom and dad told me to do, got into real estate, and I found out it was hard. My dad was right. That first year, I made the same mistake that we all make, right? We get into real estate. We don't know what the hell we're doing. So naturally, we look around at what everyone else is doing. I did what the broker told me to do. I'm cold calling, I'm door knocking, I'm sitting in open houses, doing floor time. And after that first year of failing, I almost quit. Here's my problem. Honestly, I had nowhere else to go. I already burnt my bridges. My parents had already paid my way through college, which I failed, university, which I failed. My options were narrow. So I had to figure out how to make real estate work through my own necessity. So if you're listening to this right now, you're watching this, and you're like, yeah, you know what? That's me. I'm looking for a real estate trainer. I want someone that's been in this game and been successful for a long time. I want someone that knows how to create millionaire agents. You see, you don't just get me, you get my coaches, you get Brett, you get everyone in the Craig Proctor system pulling with you. And we have these big events. We do all kinds of online training through Zoom meetings, but we also do these in-person events that really are life-changing. And I know that because Brett, you've seen it almost at the end of every event, we have people come up to me and without exaggeration, tears in their eyes, some of them crying and weeping, and the emotions all are over the place. Some people I think are relieved, and that's why they're emotional. Some people I think are frustrated because it's like, oh my God, I've been doing this the hard way for 20 years and I didn't need to be. I wish I had found Craig earlier. So the emotions, relieved, joy, they're all over the place. And so I hope we've touched you here today because I know every single one of you, you have families, you have goals, you have ambitions, And real estate can be a wonderful career. It's given me so many financial things to be able to do wonderful things for me and my family and for Brett. And that's what really gets me up every morning is every time Brett shares his success story, whether it's on stage or on online like we're doing here today, it gives me like little tingles the back of my neck because that's what you want as a real estate coach. Okay. You want to see people break through and have this kind of success. And I want to transfer all my experience in this system to you so you can have more money and more time and you can realize your dreams and have a better life. So I want to thank everybody for watching this episode of the Craig Proctor Real Estate Show. A special guest, give us a virtual applause for Brett here today for doing an awesome job. Feel free to reach out to either one of us. You can email me at craig@craigproctor.com. Okay. Brett will have his contact information and mine in the comments below. If you want to book a private breakthrough call where we'll analyze your business, cost you $0. We're not going to try to sell you anything. You're not obligated. Feel free to go to proctorcall.com and you can do that. And my website is craigproctor.com where you can get information about our conferences and our training. So, Brett, one more time, thank you so much for doing this today. And
Thank you,
everybody,
sir.
thank you so much for watching this episode of the Craig Proctor Real Estate Show. Remember to download the universal callback script, use it, you're going to love it. And thank you for watching.
Bye, everybody.